So what I want to do here is continue our discussion on Secret Wars with the last and final issue. And something I also want to point out here is that if you're looking to get into the main Secret Wars series, including the lead up to everything that got us here, I have a playlist that you can find in the description of this video. Having said that, where issues 7 and 8 saw the coming together of various armies across Battleworld, some of which were designed to overthrow Doom and replace him, where others just wanted freedom, at the conclusion of issue number 8, Black Panther made his appearance alongside Namor the Submariner, brandishing the Infinity Gauntlet and leading a full contingent of Marvel zombies. And so picking up with issue number 9, we continue the confrontation between T'Challa and Dr. Doom. Now what's interesting about this is that initially, Doom attributes the surge of armies rising against him as the work of T'Challa, but as we discussed in one of our previous videos, this was actually orchestrated by the combined efforts of both versions of Reed Richards from the Earth-616 and Ultimate Universe respectively, with Maximus the Mad operating as the figure who could rally these armies together, allowing for both versions of Reed to operate from the shadows. In addition to this, Doom actually tries to sway them to his side by appealing to their roles as kings. What I mean here is that prior to the events of Time Runs Out, which saw Namor and T'Challa waging war against one another resulting in their kingdom's destructions, Namor ruled over Atlantis and T'Challa ruled over Wakanda, with each individual dealing with their own burdens, and that the outside world was constantly attempting to attain Wakanda's vibranium stores, while simultaneously encroaching on the ocean territories of Namor. However, T'Challa and Namor ultimately reject the olive branch offered by Doom, and using the Infinity Gauntlet's ability to control all things, turn Doom to glass with the intention of killing him. Now something to point out here is that what we're seeing at the moment is actually something we've never seen before. What I mean here is that historically, the Infinity Gauntlet has been used by various individuals in the past, but never against someone wielding the power of the Beyonders. Because the Beyonders were capable of eliminating the cosmic entities up to and including the Living Tribunal, the question being asked here is this: is Doom truly using the full power of the Beyonders? The reason why I ask this question is that during the events of Infinity War, at least assuming that Hickman considered it to be official material, the Living Tribunal had rebuked Adam Warlock's claim regarding the Gauntlet's incredible power by quite literally keeping him from being able to use it temporarily. And so using the transitive property, we can argue that if the Beyonders have the power to destroy the Living Tribunal, and the Living Tribunal had the power to quell the Infinity Gauntlet, then it stands to reason that the Beyonders are more powerful than the Infinity Gauntlet. However, the issue that we face here is that there don't actually seem to be any Beyonders left, and the last vestiges of their power rest in the hands of Doom by way of Molecule Man. And where Victor is able to reconstitute himself after Namor's attack, he greets T'Challa as an enemy with the two doing battle, meaning that unless we're provided a definitive answer at this part of the story, we don't know which one of the two is stronger. From here, Hickman switches our focus to both versions of Reed meeting Susan Storm and Valeria. Now this is of stupendous importance in that this is the first time Reed and Susan have met since the collapse of the multiverse and her presumed death. Where our previous videos established that Reed had become aware that Susan was alive and operating under the control of Victor, Hickman's portrayal of Reed and the inherent issue of his character during the events of Future Foundation are carried over to his reuniting with Susan. What I mean here is that during Hickman's run of Fantastic Four, the plot of the story revolved around Reed's disconnect with his family in the face of his love for science, technology, and solving the world's problems. With the conclusion of Future Foundation and the arrival of Franklin from the future solve this problem by illustrating the need for Reed to exist as a family man, the lack of affection towards Susan as is displayed here, coupled with the anger he clearly shows towards Doom manipulations of Susan's mind, tells us that Reed still cares for his family, but in this instance, stopping Doom, stripping him of his power, and turning things to the way they were is of the utmost importance. To this end, when the question is asked by Susan as to who Reed truly is, rather than revealing himself as her husband, he simply states that he's there to fix things. Now at this point, we follow both versions of Reed into the secret lair of Dr. Doom, which is designed to house and contain Molecule Man. Now where Ultimate Reed was originally brought to us as a villain over the course of his publications in the Ultimate Universe, when the collapse of the multiverse occurred, he survived and encountered the main Marvel Reed. Hickman played a bit of deception in that where Ultimate Reed still demonstrated patterns of villainy, it was believed, at least by me anyway, that the villainous nature of his character had taken a back seat to the necessity of destroying Doom. However, this proves not to be the case in that when both versions of Reed encounter Molecule Man, Ultimate Reed traps the main Marvel Reed in a bubble of time. In addition to this, what we're told is that because of the nature of Battleworld, time was believed to flow forward only with the inability to flow backwards, meaning that time travel to the past was impossible. The reason for this was due to the fact that Battleworld was created with the power of the Beyonders, and as beings who only existed linearly, meaning they could only move forward in time, the belief was that Battleworld functioned in the same way. Now, to be honest here, I would argue that this was the moment when Marvel deviated away from the idea of rebooting their continuity and chose to keep it the same. But this is something that we'll discuss later in the story. For now, the actions of Ultimate Reed trapping his counterpart in a sphere of time, causing him to travel backwards and forwards, is rooted in the idea that Ultimate Reed intends to eliminate his counterpart, or at the very least, immobilize him entirely. However, during the taunts, Owen Reese steps in by rematerializing Ultimate Reed into food that he can actually consume, effectively removing him from the picture. Now, the reason for why Molecule Man chose to intervene isn't really explained here, with the exception of a warning to the last remaining Reed that Victor Von Doom is coming. But I would argue that this is really just Owen Reese satisfying his hunger due to the vast amount of power he possesses, and in doing so, elected to kill the villain rather than the hero. But regardless, shifted the story back to Doom temporarily, we learn that the power of the Beyonders is indeed greater than the Gauntlet, and that Doom is essentially beating and toying with T'Challa. However, despite all his vaunted power and knowledge, it's not until T'Challa begins to taunt Doom that Victor realizes that T'Challa went into the conflict knowing it was impossible for him to win, and that all of the events that have transpired from the first battle at Castle Doom up until the current moment have all been a ruse designed to allow both versions of Reed the opportunity to locate Doom's source of power and attempt to destroy it. Now, traveling to Owen in an effort to stop Reed from whatever his machinations happen to be, in my opinion, this portion of the story provides us with one of the best Doom monologues in the history of Marvel Comics. What we're told is that where previously Doom had considered himself to be more capable than Reed based simply on their knowledge of science and technology or willingness to do what needed to be done, at the moment, Doom considers himself to be a better man due to his actions at the cusp of the multiverse's collapse. Because Doom, Strange, and Owen Reese stood at the brink of the multiverse's destruction, faced the Beyonders, overcame them, and took their power, Doom used the opportunity to create Battleworld, and in doing so, saved millions of beings from the fragments of alternate realities that hadn't yet been completely destroyed. As a result, because Reed was only able to save himself and a handful of others, Doom's taunts amount to calling Reed a coward and a failure due to his inability to save his own family. Now, where Doom attempts to kill Reed using his vast powers, the true nature of Owen Reese comes into play in that rather than operating simply as a source of Doom's power, Reese is more akin to a gatekeeper holding the keys and allowing Doom to use the power of the Beyonders. This particular bit comes to light when Owen bestows Reed with a power equal to Doom, allowing the two to engage in a grudge fight of sorts. Now, the battle between Reed and Doom as it's written here is absolutely amazing in that Hickman is giving us an instance where every ounce of frustration and anger is being laid bare. From the perspective of Doom, despite the various powers he's gained over the years and the struggles that he's endured, his life has never been an easy one. To sidetrack for a second, this is actually Hickman paying homage to Doom's attempts to save his mother's soul from Mephisto, with his various schemes over the years designed to acquire the power to do so. As a result, Doom's anger towards Reed and stopping his conquests over the years isn't rooted in the fact that he was defeated so much as it was rooted in the fact that Reed had essentially been stopping Doom from saving his mother. On the other hand, Reed's anger towards Doom is much simpler in that when the multiverse collapsed, rather than saving Susan, Franklin, Valeria, and Ben, keeping them whole and waiting for Reed once he arrived, instead, Doom attempted to take his place by stripping Reed's family of their knowledge of him and acting as Reed himself. Having said that, the battle between the two comes to a head when Doom makes the argument that Reed believes he's a better person and that if granted the power of the Beyonders, he would have made a better world rather than creating one of conflict and turmoil. Furthermore, when Reed forces Doom to admit that this is true, following this statement, Owen Reese makes the case that if both Doom and Reed agree that Reed would have made a better world, then the opportunity will be granted for Reed to prove it. And so, using his power to effectively wipe the slate clean, as Battleworld and all things within are completely eliminated, T'Challa seizes the time gem of the Infinity Gauntlet in a last bid to save himself. From here, things get a little hairy, but they get really interesting at the same time, in that we actually jump back to when the incursions first began, with a retelling of Avengers Volume 3, Issue Number 1. What this tells us is that while it's not shown, Reed seems to have somehow either stopped the incursions from happening, or else changed the outcome in that T'Challa has successfully traveled to the past, with the time gem being destroyed once he arrived. In addition to this, where the beginning of the incursions open with Black Panther witnessing an incursive Earth preparing to crash into the main Marvel Universe, followed by the appearance of Black Swan, all actions of T'Challa and his tribesmen appear to be the same here, with the exception of the fact that rather than witnessing an incursion take place, they witness the launching of a vessel into space for the purpose of exploration. From here, we jump to Miles Morales and Peter Parker, where Miles has a flashback to Owen thanking him for bringing a hamburger. What this tells us is that Miles Morales still remembers everything that had taken place during the events of Secret Wars on Battleworld. Where Owen had responded to Miles by stating that he owes him one, This favor seems to have come to fruition, with Miles being thrown into the same universe as Peter, allowing for Miles to fight alongside his hero against various villains. And so as the story begins to come to a close, Hickman brings the conclusion of Secret Wars into full view by telling us how things have changed and setting the stage for the direction of the future of Marvel Comics. What we're told is that the incursions, the destruction of the multiverse, and the death of the cosmic entities all took place, meaning that as of this moment, with the exception of Galactus in the Ultimates, there don't seem to be any cosmic entities in the all-new, all-different Marvel Universe. In addition to this, where the Beyonders were essentially defeated by Doctor Strange, Dr. Doom, and Owen Reese, rather than Doom using the power of the Beyonders to create Battleworld, the process of recreating all things fell to Reed, Franklin, and Owen Reese. With the explanation coming to Susan by way of Valeria, Owen Reese exists as a battery of sorts, and that he's the source of the Beyonders' power and the ability to create things. At the same time, Franklin is both a universal and multiversal constant, meaning that he's able to tap into the power of Owen Reese and use it to create universes. Finally, with Reed's vast intellect and experience, the abilities of Owen and Franklin are combined, allowing for Reed to instruct Franklin on how to engineer universes and send them off into the multiverse to function and grow on their own. And so what Hickman is essentially telling us is that where Reed is viewed as the savior of the multiverse due to Battleworld having never happened, in all new, all different Marvel, the reason why Reed, Susan, Valeria, and Franklin aren't present in any existing stories is due to the fact that they're quite literally engineering universes to recreate the multiverse, with each reality containing its own Molecule Man. Now in truth, this is really just an opportunity for Marvel to shuffle the Fantastic Four out of the landscape and keep them out of stories, similar to what was done with Nick Fury during Original Sin. This is evident in the fact that when Franklin asks if they're superheroes anymore, Reed responds by saying that their work won't stop at simply creating universes, and that all of these alternate realities have to be cataloged, monitored, and maintained until they grow to the point of becoming self-sustaining, after which time the Fantastic Four will return. Furthermore, in the closing pages of the story, it's revealed that throughout his entire ordeal from the start of the incursions, his journey to find his family, his battle with Doom, and Owen Reese resetting the events after the multiversal collapse, allowing for the recreation of all things, Reed himself had learned multiple lessons, and that the failure of Doom was his desire to hold on to everything that he had for fear of losing it, and that this fear was ultimately his downfall, and that he was essentially a man holding his life in his hands with no foundation. But as soon as the things that Doom loved were taken away from him, he was essentially a broken man. Using this as a platform, Reed intends to use the time engineering universes to connect with his family, connect with what it means to live, and rather than holding on so tight to the things he loves, simply allow the universe to grow and function as it should. With that being said, we're going to bring this video to an end, and let me know down in the comments section what you guys think about Secret Wars so far, and be sure to check that link in the description if you want to watch the whole thing. If you've been waiting all this time for me to finally get the last video out, and now you want to binge watch it, which I'm not against, that'd be awesome. But let me know, and I will catch you guys later. Peace.